I'm sad to say, but real estate might have just died. Now, a disclaimer, this channel is never going to talk about politics unless politics actually interferes with personal finance, investing, and anything in that manner. And that's why I'm bringing up Joe Biden and his recent infrastructure package, in which he's directly attacking the 1031 exchange. Now, the 1031 tax deferred exchange will now only be applicable up to $500,000 in profit. And for anyone who is not familiar with the 1031 plan, the 1031 plan basically says if you buy a house, take profits from that, you can roll those profits into another house and not have to pay any capital gains. The whole idea is that the government is allowing these investors and incentivizing them to rank up in real estate as fast as possible. So they go maybe from a single family to a 4-unit to, and scale up. The whole idea is the US government will then tax it when the real estate investor will sell it eventually. They'll swoop in and gain all the taxes that they've basically been deferred over the years, and it should equate to the exact same amount. This incentivizes investors to rank up really quickly and scale up, so then eventually one day they will have a large real estate portfolio, which then the US government will tax. As an example of the 1031 exchange, let's say you buy a house for $100,000, it goes up in value to $200,000 and you decide to sell. You sell it, you get the $200,000, you will actually not be able to touch that money. Someone else will be in control of that money until you roll it over into a new property, and you will not have to pay any taxes on that. This is a massive hit for the real estate market because this is one of the most incentivizing reasons to invest in real estate. You can essentially never be taxed on any of your real estate investments because you can continue this 1031 exchange just over and over and over again, and then once you actually die, you won't be taxed either. The step-up tax basis will allow you to actually transfer your properties once you've died onto your kids or anything like that, or any heirs that you guys will will it to, and they won't pay any taxes on that real estate either. But what is this going to do in this crazy real estate market that we're already in that's been just astronomical the last couple of months? Well, I want to take an approach from the investor's standpoint. You have to understand that investors are really the ones who are manipulating the cash in the real estate market. They are going to be the ones who decide where to put their own cash. If the investors decide to go one way versus another, that will change the entire market. So rationally, you have to think, what is going to be the best move for these investors and where are they going to put their cash? As an investor, of course, you want to save as much money as possible and the least amount of taxes if you can avoid them. However, where is this going to put the real estate investors? Well, the real estate investors are going to go to places that they can still capitalize on the 1031 exchange. And as I mentioned earlier, that is only up to $500,000. So all these large-scale investors are now going to potentially start to downsize and look at these smaller single-family homes. Let's just take an example of a large-scale investor and say that he has a $20 million complex. However, that goes up by 10% over whatever, a couple years, and now that gives a value of $22 million. He decides to sell. Well, that $2 million of profit is not going to just be able to roll over now. He is actually going to be able to write off $500,000 in the 1031 plan, but he's going to be taxed on the $1.5 million that he has profited over the last couple of years through appreciation. And with the massive capital gains taxes that these large-scale investors are already paying out, they can be anywhere from like 40 to like the high 50% range. And it just doesn't make any sense for them to actually sell. With these large-scale investors deciding not to sell, well, that kind of screws up other side markets from the real estate market, such as any brokers or home maintenance or property maintenance or literally anything that is conducive with the real estate market that's not directly the investors themselves. But there's a lot of people out there that have a large real estate portfolio and they've saved every single dime, leveraged themselves properly, and just had really great property picks. However, they don't really have a large individual income, which means that they're going to be taxed at a ridiculous rate without having that large income that all these other investors are actually being taxed on. Well, instead of buying these larger scale properties, people are going to flock towards these smaller ones. If you go and buy a house for, let's say, $500,000, let it double in price over, let's say, 10 years. That's going to be making a lot more sense than dumping a ton of money into a large complex and then having to pay out the nose for taxes. They're going to be looking at where they can make $500,000, and that's going to be in the single family and condo market. These large scale investors are going to take that $20 million and instead of having that one large complex, roll that out into, let's say, 40 different single family homes, which is not going to help the average American who is going to be a first-time home buyer by any means. And with all the manufacturing backups, and I mean, wood itself has soared like 200% over the last year, and no really new construction buildings at the scale that we were once producing just a couple of years ago. This means that it's going to inflate the real estate prices even more and just squeezing out the lower and middle class who are really trying to build wealth into getting to the upper class where they can control these real estate properties. Real estate has made the most millionaires in the world, and it's not for any stupid reason. It's because real estate offers these incentives that can help middle class people really expand their net worth and get to financial freedom. All I can see is these large-scale investors really dialing it back and buying these small single-family homes more consistently and driving up these prices. By still taking that tax advantage and having a massive portfolio in a sense of volume, not necessarily numbers-wise like value, and it's not going to help the average American by any means. I can see a lot of these large-scale investors also just kind of recycling their properties, so their oldest, like 2 to 4 properties, maybe they'll sell and cash out, take advantage of that 1031 and roll it into new properties, and then take more advantages as the years go by. So what is this new 1031 plan in the Biden's new infrastructure really going to do? Well, it's going to funnel every single investor in the real estate market into these small single-family homes. People want the 1031 deferred tax plan, and people are going to actually try to chase it. It's just a slap in the face to a lot of these multi-unit investors and landlords because they've worked all this time and effort and put all these years of struggle into actually owning a property like this, and now it doesn't even make any sense to continue. These landlords are providing a great service for a lot of people, which is affordable housing in whatever circumstances, and I don't think that they should necessarily get punished for doing that. You guys are probably thinking who's benefiting the most from these 1031 plans. It's probably these corporations that Biden is going after. However, Bloomberg came out with an article estimating how much these corporations actually benefit from the 1031 plan, and it was estimated that they benefit $2.3 billion. However, the average individual investor, the average Joe who lives next door, might have a single rental property or just kind of a handful of them, benefit a lot more than these corporations, to the tune of $5.7 billion. So who is really going to be knocked on this? It's not going to be the corporations. It's going to be the small individual real estate investors, the middle class citizens that are trying to make it up to the upper class. These small landlords are going to lose the most out of it, and the corporations are still going to be just all right. We've seen this with Biden very recently, how he's attacking the 1031 plan. He's going after higher capital gains taxes, and he's basically attacking any investment, property, asset, portfolio, anything that he can get his hands on, and he's taxing the heck out of it. And I do want to mention that home ownership is the #1 wealth builder in the United States. So by actually affecting how many people can get their hands on a single family home is really going to have a detrimental effect on the wealth of the US economy and the US individual. My personal opinion, I would just say abolish the entire 1031 plan, because if you cap it at 500,000, the large-scale investors are just going to hurt these small-scale investors and the single-family homeowners and everyone who is actually trying to make and build wealth. It's going to hurt them the most. So just take it out completely if you're going to do that. At least it would be evened off, and the large-scale investors can focus on their large-scale properties, and the small-scale investors can focus on their small-scale properties. I want to reiterate this one more time. This is not a political channel by any means. However, when it crosses paths with your personal finances, I will bring it up because maybe you can learn something and take precautionary steps to help you in the future. As always, good luck in the markets, and I'll see you guys next time.